Hello, hello. I am so excited that you've decided to stop by. If you want candid answers to real life questions, if you want honest and relatable information, then go ahead and hit subscribe now so you don't miss a thing. Do it now so you don't forget. So, as many of you know, I am in recovery, and tomorrow I'm coming up on a pretty big day for me. I am going to be celebrating 5 months freedom from active addiction. And I know you don't get a coin for 5 months or a key tag in NA, but to me 5 months is an amazing, amazing thing. 5 months of freedom from the chaos and the everything that you put yourself through when you're out there using. 5 months of freedom from all of that means so much to me. I am so grateful for all of those things that I get to do on a daily basis that I wasn't able to do when I was using, when I was caught in active addiction. So what I want to talk about because of that is I want to talk about relapse. And I know that might seem like a little bit of an odd topic to talk about because I'm coming up on 5 months, but one thing I know to be true as somebody that has struggled with addiction for over 25 years, most of my adult life, and even in my teen years, is struggling with addiction. I know what relapse looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it is to look in the mirror and say, I'm not going to do this, and then end up doing it anyway. And I know that a lot of you have loved ones that you don't understand why they keep going back out. You don't understand why they continue to run back to the people, run back to the places, run back to the things that have caused them so much damage in their lives, so much headache, so much chaos, and why they would choose to go back to the thing that turned them into the person that they don't even like themselves. And it's hard to understand that for a long time, and I didn't have a really good understanding of it either. I used to think that that it was possible to be working a program and then just get up and go relapse. And that's because I know now that I didn't have a very good understanding of what working a program actually was and what that meant. So looking back on all of my experience through all of my relapses and all of my treatment centers, and addiction taking me to prison and jail and all of these things, and the custody issues I had with my children and all of these things, then these are the things that I know that happens when you're getting ready to actually physically relapse. It starts in the mind first. There's actually 3 phases: mental, emotional, and physical. I wrote them down, and there's different things that fall under each category. There's mental, emotional, and physical. And if you think about it like you're driving a car, you might be able to run a stop sign without crashing your car or hitting anybody or getting pulled over. You might be able to get away with 1 or 2, but when you consecutively run those stop signs and you consecutively ignore these red flags and you ignore these warning signs, then you're going to crash and burn. And that's what I know from my experience as somebody that used to be considered a chronic relapser. And to some people, 5 months doesn't seem like a long time because some people have the mentality that you should have been doing this stuff anyway, and that's fine if you're still there. But if you are familiar with the term of recovery or addiction, then you know all too well what relapse looks like from the outside looking in. So a couple of the things that I want to talk about are those red flags. I have 5 down here, and then at the end I'm going to give you a 6th one that I think is a really big one, because you might be able to get away with 1 or 2 of these, and you might be able to do these and have nothing to do with picking up. But when you do all of these and they kind of fall like a domino effect when somebody's getting into that mode, then I'm pretty positive that, I would be worried about you, or even worried about myself. We tell people how to get clean: go to treatment, work a program, find a sponsor, do all these things, or go to church and do all these things. But here's the things that I want to tell you, because sometimes all we need to know is what not to do so that we can kind to figure out how to keep going and being successful, whatever that looks like for you. So the first red flag is it always starts in the mind. Always, always, always. A relapse always starts in our mind. It is always in a mental relapse before it is anything else. Nobody wakes up and they wake up at the bar. Nobody wakes up at outside their dope boy's house. That doesn't happen. It always starts in your mind. And the first red flag is that you lose that desperate urgency of why you needed to get clean or sober in the first place, whatever terminology it is you use. And what happens is you start becoming obsessive and compulsive. And we all know, those of us that have struggled with addiction, those are the two definitions of being in active addiction, of being an addict or an alcoholic, is that you will obsess about things over and over, and you become compulsive. You have erratic behaviors where, now I'm not talking about when you first get clean or sober, because you're all over the place. You are up and down, and you're super happy and super excited and grateful that the clouds are white, grateful the grass is growing and the coffee. I'm still grateful for coffee every single day. That will never change. But as you grow and progress, that's why it's called progress, not perfection, because as you progress along in your recovery, you're going to learn how to get a handle on your emotions and on your thoughts. You're going to learn how to let those thoughts kind of pass by a little bit more, instead of stopping and obsessing over each and every thought that we have. They move along, and instead of them stopping like a broken projector, which is something that it is for me sometimes, it's more like a slideshow. And as you grow along in your recovery, it becomes easier and easier to learn how to do that. It is a learning process. There is a chapter in the basic text in the book that they use in NA where it talks about we learn to do these things. We get clean and we learn how to tell the truth. We learn how to grow, how to not be emotionally involved in our problems. We learn how to do these things. So something else that we start doing is we lose our gratitude. And when I say gratitude, I am not talking about regurgitating a gratitude list that we make every morning. I still make a gratitude list every morning, or sometime throughout the day I do. But I mean, when I say a grateful addict or a grateful alcoholic won't pick up like they say, I'm talking about showing gratitude for the things that you have. Showing your gratitude that you have a home by cleaning it without complaining. Because 6 months ago when you were in treatment or in jail, you were sitting there and thinking about, if I just had a home, I just want to be able to have a home to take care of and get up and go to work and have my kids and live a normal life. And now you're complaining about these things, so you're losing your gratitude. And again, I'm not talking about having a bad day to where you're like, I don't want to do the dishes again, I don't want to go to work today. I'm talking about you've lost your desperation, and now you're also, not only have you lost the urgency of why you needed to get clean, you're minimizing the things that went on when you were out there. You've now lost your gratitude for the things that are going on that you would not have if you were not clean. When you stop seeing that the only reason that you have your kids in your life, that your marriage is restored, that your parents want you around, that people are not hiding their purse under their coats in the bedroom or keeping them on them all the time, sleeping with their wallet, is because you're clean, then you're losing the urgency of why you need to get clean in the first place. You're losing your gratitude, and you are minimizing how bad it was when you were truly out there. You start being complacent, and part of being complacent is complaining, which goes back to the gratitude. You start being complacent in your life, and with that can come misplaced guilt and shame. You start feeling guilty, so guilty. This is how, whether you look at the addiction as the disease of addiction, of alcoholism, or whether you look at it as a spirit, however you view it, this is how it works. It will tell you that things were really not as bad, that people were just overreacting, that maybe I was just in a bad place, that maybe I could control it if I was able to pick up now that I have a job and that I had more money. Not in that relationship that I was in when I was using, so maybe this time would be different. You're minimizing how much of control that it truly had over you when you were out there using. You start complaining, you have misplaced guilt and shame, you start feeling so bad about the things that you did when you were out there that you're wanting to go use again to cover up those feelings of how bad you feel for the things that you did. You see how that works? It contradicts itself. Either you minimize it to where it wasn't as bad, so you're able to really use and control it, or you feel so bad about what you did is that you want to go use to cover up for those things that you've done. So either way, if the answer leads you back to using or drinking again, then that's just the disease or the spirit of addiction talking to you, however you view it. Old behaviors. Now, if you've ever heard me in any of my other videos, you know that I've said before that the way you think brings about your attitude, and your attitude brings about your feelings. So when you start thinking old thinking brings about old behaviors, and then old behaviors brings about old reactions. Now you're reacting to situations again and not responding. You're not thinking things through all the way, clearly. Do we have moments where we have meltdowns? Absolutely. Are you still going to argue with your spouse? Yes. Are you still going to get impatient and want to hide in the bathroom from your kids? Yes. Are you still going to have days to where you're not going to go to work? Want to go to work, I'm saying? Yes, absolutely. But is this becoming something that you're obsessing about? Or are you compulsively doing it over and over? Are you lying for no reason at all? Are you starting to miss the things that you were doing, that lifestyle? Are you going around, are you starting to think about the people that you were getting high with, and not in a way as, I hope they're okay, I hope they're not dead, I hope they're in treatment, but are you starting to miss the thrill of the chase? Are you starting to miss the whole, look what I'm getting away with? Because as sad as this is, for somebody that's using the way that most of us did when it has a control over our life, we feel like we have nothing going on, and then we pride ourselves in getting away with things, or we pride ourselves in the fact that I have to do this, I worked this out. And sometimes that's the only thing that you have to be proud of for yourself, because you wake up broke with no money and you're sick, and you work it out into where you can fix your problem. So then it gives you a false sense of pride. So then when you take that away and you're just doing these normal everyday things, then it almost feels like you don't have anything to be proud of yourself. But you wasn't worried about those bills before because you're not paying bills before. Now you have bills to pay. So now you also have new stress that you didn't have before. Sometimes when I very first got clean this time around, I'm like, why is none of this working out? This not should be this stressful. I got clean to be able to deal with these things. But the more that I thought about it, and it was brought to my attention that life has always been here. I've just decided to show up. Life has been here. Life does not show up in our day. Life has been going on for a very long time. We've just decided to now show up and try to be productive and try to be an adult, and now we're stressing about bills and gas. Well, the only time that we needed gas in our car is to go where we needed to go. So now that's mental. Old thinking, old behaviors, old reactions, that can kind of cross the board into all of them, because old behaviors can be a physical thing too. Now, when we talk about emotional, these are things that other people are going to see. We're going to feel it, but we're going to start denying. That goes back to the minimizing. We're denying how bad that it really was. We're denying how much that we really needed to get clean. We start isolating. We just don't want to go to meetings. We don't want to talk to people. We don't want to talk to anybody. I don't call my sponsor enough. I don't call her every day. But I do talk to somebody in recovery every single day. I am working on my program every day, doing an inventory, doing something. I am reaching out to somebody or talking to somebody that's reached out to me every day. We the complacency can become emotional as well, because we just start going through the motions. We're not really doing anything that we're supposed to. We're just kind of there. We're on autopilot with life. And you can't really grow as a person and become a better person if you're just going to be complacent and just going through the motions, because you're going to get bored in recovery and you're going to feel like there's no excitement with it, and you're just going to want to throw in the towel and throw your hands up. And physical, before I give you the bonus one, clearly the physical ones would be, we can't sleep, we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not showering sometimes, we're not doing these things, we just don't care. We've completely lost interest in life, and we're not enjoying any of the things that we got clean or sober to be able to enjoy and to be able to do. We go around old people, places, and things. Why are you calling your dope boy to see how he's doing if you're not going to buy drugs from him? There is no need for you to go back to that bar to check on that bartender or that server that worked at the bar while they're working at the bar. If they're truly your friend, call them when they're not at work. And if they are your friend, they're going to respect your boundaries. They're not going to want to see you relapse. If this has been something to where you say to them, I can't control this anymore, I went to treatment, or it put me in jail, or I got a DUI. Not everybody has the same bottom. I just want to add that in there. Not everybody ends up in prison. Not everybody ends up in jail or multiple treatments. Sometimes we don't lose our kids. Sometimes we are able to pay our mortgage. Sometimes we don't lose our car. Sometimes we live in our car. There's a bottom. Your bottom is different. Sometimes, like the actress Jamie Lee Curtis, she talks about her high bottom. She clearly was not homeless and living in her car, but she had that desperation and that insanity and that hold on her that she did not like. So before you start comparing yourself and your story to somebody else, well, maybe it wasn't as bad as them, and I never lived in my car, and I still have my home. If you woke up every day and before you were able to function as a mom, a wife, a person, if before you were able to go to work, take a shower, or eat, you had to have a glass, a straw, or a needle, or a pill, then that thing had a control on you, over you, and you were no longer in control of your own life. So let's clear up that misconception before anybody starts comparing themselves to what somebody else's bottom looks like. And for those of you that are still in active addiction, your bottom looks like when you put the shovel down. When you decide to stop digging and you've had enough of enough, and the pain is finally enough to where you're like, whatever I'm going to have to go through to change this situation, that desperation that I talked about in the beginning, when you get the gift of desperation and you feel like I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get clean, just like you did whatever you had to do to get one more, then you're there. You're at your bottom when you lay that shovel down. So we went through losing we lose our desperation, we lose our gratitude, we become complacent, we start complaining, we go around old people, which brings around old thinking, old behaviors, old reactions. Sometimes we will hear people say that you have a fear of success, but I really don't believe that. I believe that it's a fear of the responsibilities that comes from the success that we have. We don't fear a lot of money, even though money can be a trigger for somebody, and that comes from the memory associated with that money. But we fear what people are going to expect from us. And the reason that I wanted to do this with coming up on this milestone for me is because addicts and alcoholics, I've seen it in being somebody that struggled with addiction for over 25 years. I know what it looks like right before people hit these milestones of 30, 60, 90 days, 5, 6 months, 9 months, a year. They go back out. They go back out, and statistically speaking, and I don't really like statistics, but I do look at them, 85% of people will relapse within their first year, and 2/3 of people will relapse within the first 6 months. And that statistic is of people who has went to treatment and got coping skills and learned what to do when they are triggered, and was told to get a sponsor and go to meetings or get a higher power and get a relationship with God and things. That's the statistics after you go to treatment. So if you've detoxed at home, then you need to work even harder to get in the center of recovery, because the statistics are a little bit harder for you. So you have the fear of responsibility, because people are not going to talk to you at 9 days the same when you have 9 days as you do when you have 90 or when you have 9 months. And if this is not your first go around with recovery, they expect you to know what you're doing, because you do know what you're doing. Nobody trips into a relapse. It is a process that starts in your mind, that you don't nip it in the bud, that becomes an emotion where you feel like you want to do it, to where you can talk yourself into feeling like you're almost about to use or drink already. Those butterflies in your stomach and all that. So those are the red flags. The last one I feel like is super important, because if you do this at any time in your recovery or any time in your life to where you're trying to change things and become a better person, then it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. When you start relaxing your boundaries that you have, when you start relaxing your personal boundaries, then that is a big red flag. If your boundary is, I'm not going to go around people that I used to get high with until we both have like a year clean, and I have those boundaries with some really good friends of mine. I'm in recovery, she's in recovery, and we both made an agreement that until we have this amount of clean time, we're not going to go hang out together alone. My husband or somebody's going to be there with us that has more time than us, because sometimes you can be a trigger with each other, because we did use together. So if you are relaxing your boundaries, if you say that you're not going to go around that person, and then you start saying, well, I'm strong enough, I'm okay. That's where pride comes in. And just like the Bible says, pride cometh before a fall, there's a reason that it says that. Because when you start feeling like you know what you're doing and that you've got this, I absolutely hate that saying. I cannot stand when people say you've got this to another person. Because if we had this, we wouldn't have been strung out or drunk or an alcoholic to begin with. It takes a daily reprieve. It takes a daily inventory. And it takes a daily look at what we're doing, so that we make sure that we're moving forward. That we don't become stagnant for so long that we start to go backwards. Because, like I said, you can maybe run a couple stop signs without crashing your car. But after a while, I promise you, it's going to end bad. If you've gotten anything out of this, if you feel like you've been in relapse mode lately, or you know people, or you recognize these things, or you know this to be true, comment in the comments below and let me know that this has touched you in some way, what you've gotten out of this video, if you know this stuff to be true. If you are in this mode right now and you are glad that I did this video, let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe before you forget, and share this video with somebody that you think would need it. Maybe they're in that mode right now to where they're kind of, talking about war stories and, hey, remember when we got a little bit more for extra, or this person looked out for us, or we got into the bar for free, or what have you. Those war stories can bring on those feelings of euphoria, and that can just be a domino effect of chaos, and just the end result can be terrible. So I wanted to put this out there to let you know what not to do. My next video that is going to be coming out is going to talk about, it's kind of like the second part to this video. What do you do if you have already relapsed? So say that you ignored all the stop signs and you drove right through them, and you didn't know, you ignored them, and so on and so on. and now you've found yourself to where you have physically picked up, what do you do before it gets back to the point to where you're completely out of control and to where you lose everything that you've worked so hard for? I don't like to tell people that relapse is a part of recovery because I believe that's a dangerous way of thinking. But if you have fallen, please don't stay down. Please get back up while you still have a chance to. I'm so glad that you've stayed here for this long and watched this video. Please share. Let me know in the comments below what you got of it. I'm Jen Cole, and as always, I approve this message. I'm so glad you watched this. And until next time, bye-bye.